Okay. Yo, Peace Worlds, Fabric Camone Freeman, Angry Black Man in Therapy. One half of We Act Radio, broadcasting from the radical side of MLK Avenue, the underbelly nation's capital, foothill of Cedar Hill, the line of Anacostia, Freddie Douglas' home. And we are here on location on Belmont Street, Columbia Heights in Washington, D.C., in the home of a great artist and engineer who I'm honored to speak with here today, Uzikee Nelson. Uzikee,
yeah.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I love your work. I love your style.
I don't know about that.
All right, now, we're here today, long time coming, because for those who don't know, Uzikee Nelson has a great documentary that's out right now that's on YouTube, and I wanted to make sure that we create as much attention around this, not just for Black History Month, but every month, because we need to acknowledge when greatness is in our midst, and definitely learning from the lessons of our elders, so that we can have a more informed approach to this world and changing this world. And he had the good fortune to have a filmmaker for a nephew, Doug Harris, who was an award-winning documentary filmmaker who has produced over 20 historical documentaries over his career that dates back to 1989. And his most recent production is for his favorite uncle, Uzikee Nelson. So Uzikee, tell us how this story started. I want to get into as many things that you may not have an opportunity to speak in depth on the documentary on. So I really like to focus on that. But let's start where the story began. Where did the story begin on this planet Earth for you?
Tupelo, Mississippi.
Tupelo, Mississippi.
135 Franklin Street, North Franklin Street.
Richard Pryor said once that there were Tupelo, Mississippi, there was two niggas there, and now they below. Now, someone said that you knew Richard Pryor.
Yes, I knew. Richard Pryor lived down the street from me in Peoria, Illinois.
All right, let's talk about that. How did you end up befriending Richard Pryor in Peoria, Illinois?
Well, we kind of tried to play basketball together at Sandlock Basketball in Peoria. That's where I met him. Before he was a comedian or anything, he was just a regular person. His father owned a pool hall down the street from me. That was at Peoria. Peoria was a real racist town. I went there.
In a real racist country?
Well, it's more racist than Peoria. When I moved there in 1955, in the summer of 55, right after Emmett Till was killed, I moved to Peoria. Stay with my father. So I went to stay with him, and I signed up for trigonometry. They put me out of the class after a week. They put me in wood shop. They didn't ask me, they put me out of class.
They put you out of class?
Out of trigonometry, you know what I was good in math, I wasn't good in too much else. I was good in math. And by the way, I didn't take no art in school. Zero. But I did take art appreciation in college. And I got a D in it. So you know I wasn't going to take no damn art. What they was claiming the art was, I didn't think that was art, but I didn't know that. That's what I didn't think. So I said, that didn't interest me at all.
So how did you end up, or how did you gravitate towards sculpture?
I always made stuff myself as a little kid. I made my own toys, with my carving. I didn't know nothing about no metal. And I learned about metal only in college. And I looked at what they were doing. And then I got interested in African art from looking at, in the school, had a library, and I got really interested in African art and ran into a lot of African guys. So that's how my interaction, but I was in engineering, so I said, I ain't gonna get into art because that's just all about people's opinion.
So where were you at when you ran into all these African guys?
Southern Illinois, from all East Africa, West Africa, guys I knew in college. I knew a lot of people there. I also ran into another guy that you know of, Richard Roundtree.
Oh, wow.
We called him Tree in college. He was there, I guess, trying to play football, but he was too slow to be a running back. That's what they told me. I didn't know. Nobody else, he didn't last but a little while in college. He never made the team or nothing, but he was there. Richard Roundtree and some other guys.
Wow, childhood friend of Richard Pryor and went to college with Shaq.
Yeah, I went to college with him. We didn't call him Shaq, we called him Richard Roundtree.
Yeah, that's all right.
Roundtree.
That's
And
all
then
right.
later on, I was amazed when I saw him as an actor. He didn't do no acting in college.
Wow. Well,
I didn't.
you didn't do no sculptures in college.
No. I did make one little sculpture for my father, abstract piece. It took me about 15 minutes to make it. Because I was taking a welding class.
So you took a welding class. You think that was your first foray into your destiny?
Yeah. That was one of my first, but I took a welding class, but I took engineering, how to read micrometers, run machines and everything. Machinery. And then after that, I moved out from the West Coast after about 2 years in college. Take my mother out to California because she moved to LA and she wanted me to drive on them out there. My brother and my stepfather. So it was three of us. We drove from Tupelo, Mississippi to LA.
Y'all drove from Mississippi to California.
Right. You heard about driving while black?
Yeah.
Well, my stepfather knew about where to go.
Oh yeah, he had the green book and everything?
Yeah, he had the green book and everything. He knew where to go. Well, I didn't know nothing about it, but I drove out there. And then after I got there...
So how did you make out, because you ain't had no green book?
Well, I knew about how to go down from Illinois to Mississippi, because we did that quite common. It was about 600 miles at the most. From Peoria to Tupelo. So I went down with my father quite often times. That's how I got down there. But most of the time I rode the railroad up.
Is that right? Would you hop a railroad or you caught the train for real?
No, the regular railroad.
Oh, you had a ticket. So you ain't do the hobo. You came from a middle class family.
There's the rebel came through there for going from there through Tupelo to Chicago, through St. Louis. We call it the rebel.
Now,
And when I got to LA, my mother suggested, why don't you, since you know how to do some little machinery and everything, so I got a job as working as a machinist. They tried me out for 2 weeks and I could deal with it. And I was making big money in comparison. I was about to leave and my stepfather told me, son, well, why are you going back to college? You're making more money as a machinist than most black guys in LA making. So why are you going back to college? I said, well, look, I didn't have no good time in LA because it's so smoky and everything. Bad, my eyes burning, my throat. So I decided I'm gonna get the hell out of LA. Go back to college where, well, at least I wasn't smoking.
no. So it was the small
Small
graduate.
was real bad, man. My throat hurt me. I stayed out there 6 months, and I didn't know there was mountains all around. Then it kind of like rained a little, and snow was on the mountain on both sides. And I said, damn. So I decided I would leave LA.
Yeah, I can dig it. So you gave up the money to go back to college. Did you have a plan to what you was going to do at that point, or you were just running away from LA?
I went back to college and graduated, and then after I graduated, I went to work for a company called McDonnell Douglas. Later on, they became Boeing Aircraft.
Boeing Aircraft.
So I worked for them.
Weapons manufacturing.
Right, I was there when they put up the first, shoot the first astronaut in orbit. So I was there and then when that happened.
Okay, all right.
So I watched, and then I got a little discouraged after a while because I was just keeping records of parts for the aircraft for the Vietnam War. So I said, damn, I don't want to do this. Maybe I better go back to college, try to get a master's. So I went back, and in that time, I decided after they killed Malcolm, Martin, I decided I would not pursue that anymore and started working for Caterpillar.
Caterpillar didn't kill people.
Caterpillar in Peoria, because I had graduated from college and I got all this experience.
So that's the company town in Peoria, it's Caterpillar.
Caterpillar. 90% of the employment in Peoria was Caterpillar. And they only allowed blacks to work in the foundry and as janitors. But I was working for them, and I went through everything they could do, and I knew all about everything they were doing. And right after that, it was really kind of interesting. I was told the people in Peoria that I worked for the NAACP. I couldn't make a sculpture for them to go in Peoria. So I made the sculpture there, and after that, I got fired from Caterpillar.
What'd you do to get fired, Uzikee?
I'm going to tell you, that's what I think. Now, I don't know for sure. They never told me.
They never told you why you get fired?
But anyhow, how I got fired was I was taking the Black Panther newspaper. I didn't know who the Black Panthers were, but I was taking it because... You took the Black Panthers newspaper to work with you? No. I got it in the mail. I wasn't that stupid.
Oh, okay.
So, but right after that, this guy named Mark Carr, he got killed in this...
With Fred Hampton.
In Fred Hampton. And I didn't know him, but I knew his sisters. He had 3 sisters.
You know Mark Clark's sisters?
But I kind of liked one of them. And so I went to his funeral. I never saw him or met him, but I went to the funeral. There wasn't that many people there. I guess they were scared in Peoria. So I didn't know.
His funeral was in Peoria?
Yeah. That's where they buried him.
Wow. Yeah. Mark Clark was buried in Peoria, Illinois. Who would know?
Then I later found out he was supposed to be a Black Panther party here in Peoria, but I never knew him. I didn't know no Black Panthers in Peoria. I didn't know anything about that. So that's how I got involved with that. And then shortly after that, after I got fired, I went and did some work for my mother's grandmother's house up in Battle Creek, Michigan. So my mother was born, and my mother was born in Canada. My relatives escaped on the Underground Railroad.
Now,
They escaped on the Underground Railroad in 1855.
You have first-hand knowledge of your family escaping on the Underground Railroad.
Yes, I do. In fact, I went to Canada. We went to Canada in 2007, put a grave mark on my great-great-grandfather's grave.
There was one great or 2 greats?
2 graves.
2 greats. Great.
Right.
Okay.
So I went there, put a grave mark on his grave with my wife and my brothers and sisters. We had a family reunion.
You mean that pretty lady that lived in this house with you?
Huh?
Was it that pretty lady that lived in the house with you then?
Yeah, she was there. She went with me.
The pretty lady that lives in the house with you right now went with you?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to be clear.
We were going around to family reunions, okay? Okay, by the way, my mother, when I first came to Washington, D.C., the first summer I was in Peoria, she told me, in Washington, she told me, go get this book, I want you to read about your great-grandfather. So, hell, I didn't know. I never heard her talk about how they got up to Canada. Originally from Loudoun County, Virginia. They were Leesburg here? You might have heard of Leesburg.
Yeah, Leesburg, yeah.
So, that's where they escaped from Leesburg, but they had guns with them when they escaped.
I know that's right.
Guns in a wagon. I have a poster around here about it.
Now,
So,
tell me to what extent that your family was involved with the Underground Railroad. They made it out.
The great-grandfather, his name was Frank Wanzer. My building down the street is named Wanzer Place. I named it after him.
Is that right?
Yeah, I named it after him.
So he owns property here in D.C., one of the most rapidly gentrified cities in America, and this brother owns 2 properties. Is it 2 properties?
Yeah.
2 properties. He rents one out, and he has a very large sculpture in front of his property, and he named it after...
Right. I named it, the sculpture was named after Malcolm X and Malcolm X and Garvey, Marcus Garvey.
Is that right?
I put it up in 1992. Just before I retired from working up at UDC, I put it up.
Yeah, and Marcus Garvey, for those who don't know, is the original Judas and the Black Messiah, because J. Edgar Hoover's first black target was Garvey, was getting rid of Garvey. So the guy, this first black FBI agent they hired was the original Judas for the original Black Messiah, Marcus Garvey.
Right, they put him in jail in 1920s. Now, I didn't know nothing about Garvey while I was in college. I never heard his name. I knew about Malcolm, but I never read the book because all I was doing is dealing with technology books.
Mm-hmm.
So after I got out of school, I had a chance to breathe. I could see what I could see about going on in the world. A friend of mine told me about Marcus Garvey. And I went out in Berkeley, Oakland, and they had a book, black bookstore, and I went and got this book called The Philosophy of Opinion of Marcus Garvey. That's how I found out about Garvey. Before, I never heard his name at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, they don't teach that in school.
No, they didn't say nothing about Garvey at all. Garvey was the guy that talked about African liberation from colonial rule in West, all over Africa.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that pushing it with his newspaper. That's what he was, a big publisher.
Now, we want to get into your artwork, but you know, my background obviously is media, so I have to ask, how instrumental do you think that he made sure that he controlled his narrative? He controlled his own media platform. He controlled his storytelling. Because I've based my life on this one quote: "Until the lions have their own historians, the tales of the hunt will continue to glorify the hunters." And we consistently allow other people to tell our stories. We've seen that change. But how instrumental do you think that was to him, and how instrumental do you think it has been to you?
Well, that's kind of like the way I started doing art, because I think I would do artwork, sculpture, dedicated to black people. Monumental people, as I would call Garvey, different other people, and Paul Robeson. I didn't know anything about Paul Robeson until I came to Washington, D.C.
The tallest tree in the forest.
I didn't know nothing about it, never heard his name. But I did find out right after that, after I came here, there's a woman named Josephine Butler. She got a little center of this on Josephine Butler.
Mm-hmm.
She the one that told me about Paul Robeson. He was a Renaissance man.
Mm-hmm.
He was an All-American football player, valedictorian class, intellect. He
spoke several languages.
All kind of language and everything. He was something. I said, damn, he got a Renaissance man. And the weirdest thing, at that time, I had no idea. I never heard nothing about Renaissance people. I didn't know what they were talking about. And then this local newspaper around D.C. called the Washington Star. It was the Evening Star. Mm-hmm. They did a story on me. And they called me a Renaissance man because I worked with art and engineering.
How did that make you feel?
I don't know. I didn't know what it didn't make me feel too good. Because the thing about it is, they said I based my art on primitive art.
They said that.
Right, they said that. I didn't
they called your art primitive.
Yeah, that's what
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, friends and enemies, I'm looking at a slightly younger Uzikee Nelson here, in front of some of his most iconic work. And the heading we have here is "The Engineer Goes Primitive." From scrap metal, brass, and stained glass emerged the arresting forms of African-inspired totems. All right, and they think they was giving you a compliment?
They did. Look, they put me in this. Look, that was in 1976. They got in contact and they wanted to do a story on me, and they were going to do it in black and white. I said, "That's okay. I don't. You can't do it in color. That's okay. Get somebody else."
If you told them it has to be in color or no deal.
Right. So we went in Rock Creek Park and we shot them. I didn't have no large pieces. Pieces about 8 feet tall. But I didn't have no. I was just staying in an apartment. So when I did this.
You had a serious afro, bro.
Huh?
You had a serious afro, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I had an afro too. All right. So that's fabulous that you insisted that that been done in color.
Right.
You have insisted on quite a few things over your career as a sculptor. Let's talk about some of the things that you have insisted upon in your career as a Renaissance man and a sculptor.
Well, this Voice of America came to see me in 2005. And I didn't know anything about Voice of America other than I saw something about in the movies about Voice of America. It was talking about telling the American story in Europe right after the Second World War. You know, I didn't know they did video, and they told me they do video. Okay, we can do a story then. And that's the story you got to see. Now, I had many TV stories made about me when I first came, because it wasn't about the Underground Railroad or nothing like that. The local television station, Channel 7, did a story on me. First story I ever had done on me on television was Channel 7. Then I had 9, 4, 5, all the local television. But the weirdest thing, I never had anybody from the public television. They didn't do nothing on me, but the other stations did. Regular pay stations. I have a lot of them.
Why do you think that's the case? Cause
I don't have no idea.
Seems like it would be the other way around, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seemed like it would be, but they didn't do nothing on it. And, and the other thing I found out later on about Washington was very racist in their program and everything in D.C.
Was?
Yeah, oh yeah, it was bad. When I first came in 71, they didn't have no sculptures at all. Other than a guy named Ed Love, he made work stuff out of bumpers, chrome bumpers. But I worked out of metal, and by that time I figured out about how to put glass in my piece. This is the very first piece I ever did.
This piece right here is the first piece you ever used stained glass in.
Right.
Okay.
I didn't know nothing about stained glass.
Okay, if that piece ever turns up missing, I don't know nothing about it, okay?
Right.
All right.
So
now,
what happened was, I didn't even know how to put the glass in it. I didn't even know how to put the glass in. I used stained glass method.
Just like the church.
You know, like they had a channel, what you call an H channel, and you could bend it around and stuff. So I didn't know how to hold glass in.
So
I worked my way up, and then finally I figured out what you have to do is get some silicone. Silicone with caulking, what you call it, silicone caulking, 100%. It'll last for 50 years. So after that, I started putting the glass in with silicone. Well, I didn't know nothing about it because that was just the process I figured out. Use silicone.
So some of this is you teaching yourself. You are autodidact. You self-taught in this endeavor.
I didn't take no classes.
You didn't take no classes, and you ain't take no shit.
No, I didn't take no classes. About no damn.
Now, I want to back up a little bit, Uzikee. How is it you transitioned from you left the good paying job, as your father said. You went back to school and you went back home. You started working for Caterpillar. How did you make the transition? What your art sustaining you? What was it a specific epiphany? Was it a sale? Was it a sponsor? Was it a conversation? What happened that made you say that I'm going to do this for real?
Right. What happened was, see, I came to Peoria and did the sculpture. The very first piece. I have a picture of the very first piece I did.
Don't worry, we're gonna include it in.
I had this first piece I did for Peoria. It didn't have no stained glass, and I put it up. And then after that, I left town because they fired me. I was looking for a job, and so I went to work. My old school got in contact with me to take this internship, teach junior college people stuff. So I take the Ford Foundation they said, look, can you come to this thing and teach this in St. Louis, St. Louis Junior College system. So I taught a class there about machinery and everything, not about art and nothing. I wasn't even thinking about no art, other than one piece in Peoria. So that's how I got there. I took this thing in junior college. And after I finished that, you could work in different junior colleges, like in St. Louis, different Kansas City. I had an opportunity, and they called me up, brought me there to interview for them. And then finally, when I was in college, internship, the Nord, this guy named Cleveland Nord, showed up looking for somebody to come here and teach and show black people in Peoria, in this town, how to run the machinery. Because people around here didn't have no machinery ability. Because they didn't allow black people to machine anything in this town, or run any machine. The only thing they were allowed to do was work for the government. And so I knew about machinery and numerical control, because when I was at McDonnell Douglas, I took a course called numerical control. That's to control where they can have a machine to pick up something, put it over here, and then work on it, weld it, spot weld it, all this stuff. That's numerical control stuff. Program machinery. I took a course in that. So after that, I said, I know how to deal with that. So I came here to Washington. The Nord called me up and told me would I come.
Who called you?
This guy named Cleveland Denard. His name was Cleveland Denard.
And who was this again?
He was a guy I call Saint Denard. I didn't call him. Some of the students called him after he died. Called him Saint Denard. So after I retired, I said, damn, I want to do some more art. I'll do art. And I did the first piece after him called Saint Denard.
So you taught for the professionally for the majority of your career, and then when you got your good benefits together.
My benefits plus I had bought the building down the street and I fixed it all.
And what year did you make that wise decision of purchasing that building?
I matched it in 1976.
76.
No, not 76. 96.
96. Still ahead of the curve.
Right. I bought the building 96. And so
I wish somebody had told me to do that.
Well, I got that information from the people at the University of District of Columbia.
UDC.
They told
That's
me,
my alumni.
Right. They told me if I didn't buy it, you can't stay. So I decided, okay, I think I was going to stay. I bought this building.
If you don't buy it, you can't stay.
You can't stay.
They told you that in 96?
Going up.
They told you that in 96?
No, they told me that in 76.
They told you that in 76?
Yeah.
And you ain't do nothing until 96?
No, wait. I bought my building in 1970.
Well, you bought your house?
Right. 74. I bought this house in 74.
You've been in this house almost as long as I've been alive.
Huh?
You've been in this house almost as long as I've been alive.
That's right. I bought this house in 76.
And
I bought it and fixed it up because I knew how to fix things.
And we say fixed up, ladies and gentlemen. This space is one of those places that you don't want to leave quickly. It's like so many artifacts. Everything is significant. Everything is of importance. Everything is has a spiritual component to it. Everything makes you feel like staring at it long enough to get a story behind it. Everything in here. And they, before the pandemic, they were hosting events here all the time. People would come all the time, and I know they're missing that, but I'm honored that they allow us to come in and film inside their home today. I just want to make sure that everyone understands that this home is something special. And I want to congratulate you and your lovely lady for the energy you're putting in here.
When I was a kid, they told me I wasn't going to be able to read too well, but I finally figured out how to read.
Who told you weren't going to be able to read very well?
Well, my other brothers and sisters, they will always know how to do reading and writing and stuff. I couldn't hardly do none of that. But I could do engineering, mathematics and stuff. So after a while, I decided, well, I got to learn how to read better. So, especially when I started to college, that's when I started to learn how to read better.
So you think that you worked on that yourself?
Yeah, I worked on it myself. I had to.
All right, that's another example of self-taught, autodidact. Now, I want to talk to you about who defines what art is and the gatekeepers of art and your struggles in addressing that.
Well, I figured out as soon as I came who addressed the art. When I first came to Washington, D.C., I went over to Anacostia. I went over there and they started, Anacostia Museum was started about a year or two before I came. I was on Morris Road there, in an old church. But I have some pictures of me being in the church. I took this piece here and another piece over there too. And look, they love my art over there. So I said, damn. And I just kept teaching up at UDC, you know. I started doing sculpture, getting in little shows around here, because almost no one was doing any welding sculpture when I first came. They wasn't doing anything what I was talking about. I wasn't trying to do no abstract stuff. But I could do whatever I wanted to do. This another lamp I made. With this stuff, I made that real short, quick time. Probably about an hour or two. Weld all that stuff together, different parts. So that's how I got started in the art. Yeah, mostly in Washington, yeah. Then I would go down to the Museum of African Art to see all that African art. I only seen the art before that in books. Museum of African Art, they had a place on A Street in where the old Frederick Douglass house on A Street. I think northeast or something like that.
Now, I want to get to some of the stances you've taken, because you've been very public in categorizing the apartheid system in terms of art.
Right.
You stated that the monument to Martin Luther King should have been done by an African sculptor.
Right.
It was done by a Chinese brother.
Right, but it was a little different. Quite a little. One of the things I wanted to tell you, that was done by a Chinese guy, but it was the Alpha brothers that decided who got the project.
It was who?
The Alphas. That's the Alpha A family.
The fraternity?
Yeah.
Martin Luther King's fraternity.
Yeah.
They determined who got it.
Right.
Got it.
Now
Okay.
they wanted a real large sculpture.
Let me put a pin right there, because I just want to tell you real quickly and let folks know about Martin Luther King's fraternity. Some years ago, when the convention center was open, this is back when there was a hurricane that interrupted the MLK Monument opening. Okay, this was they was about to do the grand opening. There was a hurricane that postponed it. All right, we was at the convention center. His fraternity was having a luncheon in his honor, and guess who the keynote speaker was at his fraternity's luncheon honoring Martin Luther King? The assistant director of the FBI.
I didn't know nothing about
And
that.
nobody had a problem with this but me and one of the camera guys. So like, what the fuck is the FBI doing here honoring Martin Luther King at the invitation of the Alphas or whatever the fraternity MLK belonged to? And they was basically, applauding this man. I just had to say something about his fraternity. So it doesn't surprise me that they also the ones that's responsible for giving the honor of. Now, I will admit, I do like the monument. I do like the brother's work.
Oh well.
And even with that, they didn't like some of the quotes. They had to sandblast and censor some of his own words off of his own monument.
I understand. I know.
So I tell the floor about you had to get off my chest.
So you don't have to tell me nothing about it. So when I put my name on it, I put my own monument up. I don't let nobody else tell me what I'm supposed to put up. So I have one down the street on Martha Sculptor and Malcolm X Moore. Down there so that you'll know who did that.
Now, talk about the struggles of you putting up your own art. Talk about some of the obstacles you overcame, some of the people that tried to discourage you. Talk about the struggle.
Okay, the struggle I had, one of the big struggles I had putting up my sculpture was I couldn't find no place to put the thing. So that one down the street, I had made the piece, but I didn't know where I was going to put it. And I said, damn, I know what I'll do. I'll put it in front of my own goddamn building. So I put it up down there. That's why I was still working at UDC. I put it up there about 3 years ago before I retired from UDC. And one of the interesting things that happened, Marion Barry had the nerve to put it up in the district building, told about Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X. He put it in the district building. He was the mayor at that time. So that was kind of interesting. I didn't know, what was going on. And so that happened. And then, after I made on working on a piece for St. Denard, which is Cleveland Denard, Dr. Cleveland Denard. Because he's the one responsible for putting up stuff at UDC.
I'm going to have to look him up.
Huh?
I'm going to have to look him up.
What?
The Cleveland Denard. I'm going to have to look that brother up.
I'll let you read something. I already have. Cleveland was a hell of a guy. He is the one that started Washington Tech up on Connecticut. Then they changed it. And they added...
oh, yeah. Y'all mentioned that in your great documentary. Yeah.
Right. He's the one...
And I went to UDC, so thank you.
He was big in technology. That's why I came to DC. Before that, a lot of black people been in there on technology. The only thing they doing, they didn't have no computers or nothing. Denard brought all this stuff to DC. Denard, Cleveland Denard. I don't know how he got into it, but he went to down in Florida A&M. That's where he graduated from at 19.
So he did 19. Goodness gracious.
Right.
So he had cats like you and Gil Scott-Heron teaching at that school.
Right.
Yeah.
Gil Scott was teaching at Federal City College. Well, we were working at Washington Tech, but I did see Gil Scott when he first came to town. I didn't know who he was before when he first started. He came up to Washington Tech and had a concert. That's when I first saw Gil Scott.
So back to the struggle. What were some of the roadblocks from getting your work up? You said that at first it was the finding locations, and so you put one in front of your building. Married for Life put one in his building. Take us from there.
Okay, the next time I wanted to put up a sculpture.
Because I knew your work before I knew you, Brother Uzikee.
What?
Yeah, I saw your work.
Right. But the reason I didn't have any place to show it, so I decided, well, I could show it. I always show it in my house. And then I could show it other places too, but not downtown at all. There was no opportunity for me to show anything downtown. Because that's the federal government. The federal government tell you who can put up anything downtown. They don't ask the people in the district what to do. Federal government. So, but anyhow, the last year Marion Barry was mayor, before he became city council in the Southeast, he approved me getting this land on 16th Street and Georgia Avenue. So I needed a spot for it. What happened was, there's a guy named Sonny Bono. You probably never heard of him. Sonny Bono was married to Cher.
Yeah, I'm about to say, the guy that Cher's husband that jumped out of with a tree
and killed himself. But what I'm trying to tell you was funny was, the city paper ran an article. I had all kind of problems trying to find a place to put my sculpture. So finally, I wrote this article in the paper. You can adopt parts in the district.
Do you think music has a meaning?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's good to be more.
So you could adopt parts. So I decided, okay, why don't I see about adopting 2 parks? So I looked at one on 16th Street, one on Georgia Avenue. I said, well, I'll try both of them, because I wanted a place where people could see them. So then I adopted both of them. I didn't know which one. So the first one I put up was one to Cleveland Denard, on St. Denard. Now, I didn't come up with the name Saint. A former student called him a saint because he gave them opportunity to work in technology. Whereas no blacks who work in technology before I came that I knew of. Printing or nothing.
What's the Sonny Bono connection?
Sonny Bono, a guy adopted a part because Sonny Bono helped him. He was a Republican.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, Republican. Lincoln was a Republican too.
Yeah, well, we talking about a different kind of Republican.
Well, I understand, but I'm just trying to tell you. So anyhow, Sonny Bono, this guy Bill adopted a park and fixed it up. I think he spent about $60,000 to $70,000 fixing it up. Whereas I adopted the park, and I think I didn't put $1,000 fixing up the park, both of the parks, because I knew how to put in foundations and everything like this with steel, because I worked as an engineer. So that's the way I found out about it, and then I just started to work, and then finally I put it up right before the last day of Marion Berry was mayor. I put it up and it failed.
It failed?
It fell down.
How it fall?
The guy that was putting it up, he was working too fast, and the chain slipped and it fell down.
Oh, okay.
And then we put it back up, and then broke
Did it damage?
No, it didn't really damage. Just broke some of the glass. Glass break easy. And so I wasn't going to unveil it another week later after I fixed the glass. But somebody told me you better do it now. Well, Marion Berry is mayor, so I did.
You didn't unveil it with broken glass?
Just broken glass.
Don't you think that's apropos?
I don't know, but I'll unveil it.
Broken glass everywhere.
Right, broken glass. And not all of it broken. Some of it was broken.
I just think that's profound, because that's like part of the story. Like
part of the story.
We do what we got to do.
And then different television station, Channel 9, did a story on it. And then another guy that did a story on it. So when stuff happened to me that you couldn't believe it happened. You know, like my first showing in D.C. only lasted 2 weeks up in Washington Tech.
Why is that?
Well, that's only at the time they had to use the auditorium for something else. So, but a television station, Channel 7, came up and videoed the show. They must have thought a lot of it then. I didn't know. That was my first show you have in television. But so anyhow, and then later on, these African guys saw the show I was in. And 5 years later, they did a story in Africa about it. 5 years later, they were very impressed. So I have all that information. I finally picked it up. I didn't know nothing about what they were doing over there.
Now, you had this fabulous documentary that we want people to go watch. It's done by your award-winning documentary nephew, the filmmaker Doug Harris.
Right.
People can go see this documentary at Doug Harris' website.
My website.
And your website? You want to share your website with the audience here?
Not my website. It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube with
Uzikee
Nelson.
Yes,
It will be shared.
Uzikee.
It will be displayed here with this production.
Right.
And we want to get you on record that we want to get a sculpture of your work inside the Bundy Secret Garden behind Check It Enterprises and We Act Radio in Anacostia.
Well, I was over, that reminded me.
This summer. We want it this summer.
Well, I doubt it, but I'm an old man now. You caught me at the wrong time. But anyhow, what I was trying to tell you was, every time I tried to go by and get something through the D.C. Commission on Art, all the juries were 80-90% white.
The jury.
The jury.
The people who decide who's
going
going to get it and who
normally
ain't
take
going to get it.
50%. But so I didn't worry about that because I already knew about racism. Because I seen all the sculptures they put up over in Southeast. That abstract stuff that don't mean nothing to black people. They ain't nothing about what black people went through. Now in the last 10 years, I guess they have been put up something to Marvin Gaye. I don't know who did it, but it was pretty nice. But before that, they wasn't doing nothing. But I had put up my sculptures in 1999. The one on 16th Street.
I think that's the first one I saw on 16th Street.
Right, 16th.
And for those who don't know, 16th Street in Washington, D.C. is the Meridian. It is the line that divides the city in quadrants. It's the median of the city, and it's also on the same, I always confuse longitude and latitude, but it's on the same parallel line as the Vatican. It runs through the White House, goes around the globe. It gets crazy.
I heard that, man. It may be true.
You're on 16th Street. The most churches on any street in the world, 16th Street.
Okay.
And a sculpture by Uzikee Nelson.
Right. I put it up. I put it up on. New Year's Day.
New Year's Day. What year?
It was called 1999.
Almost good. 1999.
I put it up on New Year's Day. And it was real cold, and so that was it. And then later on, I came back, and 2 weeks later, and fixed the glass.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about it on that 16th Street. We had a ceremony from people up to Washington Tech and UDC came out to it. I got all video. Every time I put up sculpture up, I have a video of it.
All right, well, we're going to see the videos.
Right.
Now, I'm on tape now. What we got to do is get you to get a sculpture from you in our garden.
I don't know. You know how much work I do now, just little repair stuff. I know somebody can do something like that, but I can't do too much more like that now. I just get down, get up.
So you hanging the sculpture chops up, you see that?
Well, I'm not necessarily hanging up, but I may show somebody or tell somebody what to do, but I know I'm not doing it to no welding anymore. I don't think. But I may have some other people helping me to put it together.
Well, let's make it a community project. We can get you some young boys out there to help you out. Is that what you're saying? You just need the labor?
Oh yeah, I had to have the labor.
Oh well,
In fact, I taught quite a few people how to do that.
That's a done deal. We can get some of these knuckleheads off the street, give them a sense of purpose. You might be lighting a fuse in their ass and get them inspired to continue to run with the baton and carry the torch.
Right. Well, I'm not.
Have you taught anyone else your craftsmanship?
Not that many.
All right, well there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna get this brother to teach somebody what he knows.
Right. I have one. I never taught a class up to Howard, but I did teach a class.
We gotta take it outside the institutions, though. We're gonna take it to the street, okay? We're gonna talk about this.
I did teach a class in 2008. I taught a class at Tukaloo College. You may never heard of it. Tukaloo College is black college down in Jackson, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
I taught a class there.
Chokwe Lumumba's son is the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi.
Right. I taught a class. I know about that.
Mm-hmm.
I fixed it up so I could teach a class in 2008 in the city of Jackson. Has a museum called Smith Robertson Museum.
Mm-hmm.
They paid me to come down there and show that thing for 3 months. For 3 months in Jackson. So that's what I did. I taught a class down there in 2008. And then I also taught these students how to make sculpture in Jackson. And then I put up a piece in my hometown in Tupelo. It's called SL Valley. I put up a piece in my hometown in the black community in 2008, July the 4th. And after that, I finished up and everything. The same time Obama was getting elected, that's when I picked up the sculpture down, the 4 sculptures I had down in Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay.
And brought them back to D.C. Do you know a guy named Roy Lewis?
The photographer?
Yeah, he went with me.
Oh, Roy, shout out to Roy.
Right, Roy.
Had the opportunity to do an interview with Roy?
Huh?
Yeah, I got to re-air that. This is some serious Black history right here.
Right, Roy made the trip with me down there, and we went to his hometown
Mm-hmm.
after we went to Jackson. So, we had an experience, the car truck breaking down and everything, but we survived all of that. We didn't hurt nothing. It was kind of interesting. And then we went down to his Natchez, where he's from. Natchez, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Natchez. I'd never been to Natchez, but I knew about it. But I know Natchez on the river, Mississippi River.
Yeah.
So we went down to Natchez and stayed overnight a couple of days, just before the election over Obama.
I was disappointed by Obama, but that's another conversation. Brother Uzikee, that's our time today. This is our first installment, because we're going to have to do this again, because we're going to have a part 2 of this conversation when we find out how we're going to get your work displayed in our garden, all right?
Well, now look,
this summer.
let me try to tell you. I'm already working on a project right now. I have this piece called Real Justice.
Real Justice.
Real Justice was dedicated to Thurgood Marshall. It originally was over at Anacostia Museum. Now,
tell that story real quick. I'll give you a moment to tell that story, because that statue is no longer in front of the Anacostia Museum.
It's not. They brought it back to me. It was supposed to play 15
They
years.
returned your art.
They returned my art. Now, I don't know why. They told me they was going in a different direction. By that time, all the people that were responsible for putting it up over there had retired.
Okay, well, maybe we can make a bid on that one.
Look, don't worry, I'm working on that now. You know, I won't let one thing stop me. I'm working on something right now.
Okay.
That's a church called Plymouth Congregational Church. You probably don't know where that is.
Yeah, I know about Plymouth. Come on now. That's the one of the few preachers I like.
Well, I know that man well.
Good man.
I know him well. We've been talking about it.
Say his name for the audience.
Huh?
Say his name for the audience.
He's talking about
the Plymouth Congregation. The Reverend Hagler.
Reverend Hagler.
But we're going to continue this conversation. I read something today that reminded me of you, and I wanted to share it with you as a dedication. This is a pamphlet that was printed by Angela Davis. It's entitled Political Prisoners, Prisons, and Black Liberation.
Right.
And she has poems from prison by the Black Panther herself, Erica Huggins. Okay? And Erica Huggins wrote this. Tall, skinny, plain. Tall, skinny, plain. I'm Erica, 22. Fuzzy hair, droopy eyes, long feet. I love people, love nature, love love. I am a revolutionary. Nothing as special. One soul, one life, willing to give it. Ready to die. Noises. Miss my place here, y'all. Noises, sounds, unspoken words, feelings repressed, because the prison walls are also soul walls, barriers. If only all barriers could be removed, and we could walk, talk, sing, be free of all psychological, spiritual, political, economic boundaries. All of us, all the freedom lovers of the world, but especially right now, the prisoners. Erica Huggins. For some reason, that reminded me of you. Yes, sir.
Angela Davis. Yeah, well, I was, before I came here, I was, in the early 70s, I was seeing about her, Angela Davis, and the Black Panther Party.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I never was a
member. That's probably what got you fired.
Huh?
That's probably what got you fired.
Probably did. That's a good thing. You know why I say it's a good thing? I left Peoria, so it was kind of interesting. I didn't know where I was going until I ran into this guy named Cleveland Denard.
Thank goodness for Cleveland Denard.
He said he wanted me
to
show him how to, because they didn't have nobody around. They knew how to run machines, and I knew how to run them.
But they got you. And we're very thankful to have you, Brother Uzikee, and thank you for your contributions. Yeah, thank you for your contributions to the cultural landscape of this world. We appreciate you, brother, and we love you.
But like I say, they the only, before that, all the people up to Howard that was working up to Howard in engineering, they only knew about book learning, but they didn't have no opportunities to
tell it. That's why we got
in the shops.
Yeah.
No opportunities.
And that's why we got to take that shop outside of the institution. We're going to talk some more. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our time today. Check out this brother's documentary. You can catch it on YouTube. You'll see it in association with this production. And we'll be back for part 2 this summer when we work out the kinks on how we're going to get one of his works at WEAC Radio Anacostia. Stay safe, stay strong, stay woke. Do something.
Let me tell you something else.
And he keep going.
Go
Go ahead. Say one more thing. Go ahead.
I was trying, that was about 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember. I was trying to put up something over about the Underground Railroad over there in Anacostia.
There it is.
I was trying, but guess what happened?
What happened?
They didn't want nothing like that.
Well, we do.
The black people did, but the white people voting didn't want it. The
Well,
D.C. Commission on Art.
well,
They were so racist, it reminded me of Mississippi back in the 20s.
Well, today's a new day. Today is a new day.
I know